Could your eco-friendly ride actually be a ticking time bomb? Your sleek EV might be hiding a threat far more dangerous than the battery fires making headlines. Today, we reveal a terrifying danger that every EV owners need to know. The shocking truth is about to be uncovered. Let's start by exploring a term that might not be for everyone's radar, but is critical to understand the hidden dangers of electric vehicles. Number 1. Thermal runaway. While the idea of a lithium-ion battery catching fire is alarming enough, the real danger lies in the potential of something far more insidious. Thermal runaway is a chain reaction that begins when one of the cells of your EV battery pack overheats. This overheating can be triggered by a variety of factors: damage, manufacturing defects, or simply the natural wear and tear that comes with time. But once it starts, this process can quickly spiral out of control. Imagine this: one cell in a battery overheats, releasing energy that causes the cell around it to overheat as well. This creates a domino effect with the heat spreading throughout the entire battery pack. In the worst case scenario, this can lead to a catastrophic fire or even an explosion. But what makes thermal runaway particularly terrifying is that it doesn't always manifest in such dramatic fashion. Sometimes it can cause the battery to fail suddenly and without warning, leaving you stranded or even worse, causing a total failure while driving at high speeds. Experts agree that while thermal runaway is rare, it's a risk that EV owners need to be aware of. After all, would you want to drive around with a potential ticking time bomb beneath your vehicle's hood? The true terror of thermal runaway isn't just the possibility of a fire, it's the uncertainty. You never know when or where it might strike, which makes it a constant, albeit hidden threat. But the risks associated with EVs don't stop at a thermal runaway. Let's talk about something even more alarming. Number 2, the potential of a vapor cloud explosion, or VCE. This isn't just another technical term to gloss over. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Here's the scenario. If a lithium-ion battery on your EV begins to degrade or suffer damage, it can leak flammable gases. Instead of dissipating harmlessly, these gases can accumulate in confined spaces like parking garages, forming an invisible and highly dangerous cloud. Now, imagine what happens when this cloud encounters an ignition source. Perhaps a spark from static electricity, a lit cigarette, or even a malfunctioning electric outlet. The result could be a massive explosion, powerful enough to cause significant destruction. What makes this scenario so terrifying is that unlike a fire, which usually gives some warning through smoke or heat, vapor clouds are silent and invisible until it's too late. Consider the scale of the potential damage. A single kilowatt-hour battery capacity can produce 506,000 liters of flammable gas. With many EVs boasting batteries that stores between 60 to 100 kilowatt-hours, that's millions of liters of gas potentially filling a parking garage or another confined space. This isn't just a hypothetical risk. Real-world incidents have shown that vapor cloud explosions can cause devastating damage. The fact that these explosions can happen without any warning makes them one of the most serious, yet least discussed threats associated with electric vehicles. Number 3. The reduction of carbon emissions. Proponents of EVs often argue that despite the initial carbon cost, the vehicles will eventually offset these emissions over their lifespan, thanks to their zero-emission operation. But how soon does this payoff occur? Estimates vary widely. Some optimistic studies suggest that after about 30,000 to 50,000 miles, an EV might begin to make up for its hefty manufacturing footprint. However, more conservative analysis push this figure to over 100,000 miles. The problem is that the exact point where the EV becomes greener than the gasoline car depends on several variables. The source of the electricity used to charge the vehicle, driving conditions, and even the climate where the vehicle is used. Speaking of electricity, there is another uncomfortable truth to face. Most of the world's electricity is generated by burning fossil fuels. Globally, about 70% of the electricity comes from coal, natural gas, and oil. In the United States, that figure hovers around 60%. So, when you plug in your EV at night, there is a good chance that the power you're drawing comes from a coal-fired power plant. This means that while your car might not be emitting carbon dioxide directly, it's indirectly contributing to the very same problem it's supposed to solve. Number 4. The problem of range anxiety. Now let's talk about the range anxiety, a term that every EV owners is all too familiar with. While it's true that EV technology has come a long way in the past decade, with many modern models boasting range of 300 miles or more on a single charge, this is still not on par with what drivers expect from gasoline-powered cars. But the issue isn't just about the numbers of miles you can drive on a full charge, it's also about how quickly that range can diminish under certain conditions. For instance, cold weather is a notorious range killer. While some EV manufacturers have mitigated this issue with the introduction of heat pumps and other technologies, the fact remains that batteries are inherently less efficient in cold temperatures. This can be a major problem in colder climates, where an EV's range can drop significantly during winter months. But cold isn't the only enemy of EV range. Heavy acceleration, high-speed driving, and hilly terrain can all drain a battery much faster than anticipated. Imagine driving through mountainous areas or towing a trailer with an electric pickup. Activities that can dramatically reduce the vehicle's range and leave you scrambling to find the nearest charging station. Number 5. The availability of charging infrastructure. And that brings us to one of the biggest challenges facing the widespread adoption of EVs: the availability of charging infrastructure. While the number of public charging stations is growing, it's still far from adequate. This is particularly true outside of major urban centers. In the United States, for example, only a handful of states have what could be considered as a robust charging network, with California leading the pack. But even in California, the experience is not always seamless. Failed charging at camp, long waits, and inconvenient locations are all too common. In other parts of the country, the situation is even more dire. Many areas have so few charging stations that EV owners are forced to plan their routes meticulously, often going out of their way to find a place to recharge. This lack of infrastructure is one of the biggest deterrents for potential EV buyers, and it's a problem that won't be solved overnight. The European Union, for example, estimates that it will need to install 1.2 million new charging points every year until 2030 to meet the growing demand. Currently, they're adding about 150,000 per year, a pace that's far from efficient. Number 6. Environmental hazards of EV battery disposal. Finally, we need to address a critical issue that often gets overlooked in discussions about electric vehicles: the environmental hazards of EV battery disposal. As more and more electric vehicles hit the road, the number of end-of-life batteries that need to be disposed of or recycled is skyrocketing. Unfortunately, the infrastructure of recycling these batteries are not keeping up with demand, leading to significant environmental challenges. Unlike traditional car batteries, EV batteries are complex and contain hazardous materials like cobalt, nickel, and lithium. These materials are difficult to recycle, and if not properly handled, they can leach into the soil and water, causing long-term environmental contamination. The process of recycling these batteries is not only costly, but also energy-intensive, which ironically diminishes some of the environmental benefits from driving an electric vehicle in the first place. Moreover, because of the recycling process is so complex and expensive, many end-of-life batteries are simply being stored indefinitely or sent to landfills, where they pose significant environmental risks. As the number of electric vehicles on the road continues to grow, the volume of batteries needing disposal will surge, potentially leading to an environmental crisis if we don't develop better recycling methods and infrastructure. This challenge of battery disposal is one of the most significant environmental hurdles that the EV industry must overcome. While electric vehicles are marketed as a greener alternative to traditional cars, the life cycle of batteries presents serious environmental risks that need to be addressed if we are to truly benefit from the transition to electric transportation. These risks don't mean that we should abandon electric vehicles. Instead, they underscore the importance of continuing to develop safer battery technologies, improving recycling infrastructure, and increasing awareness of the potential dangers associated with EVs. As we move towards the electric future, it's vital to address these challenges head-on to ensure that the transition is as safe and sustainable as possible. The electric revolution is here, but it's up to us to navigate its complexity wisely. As we conclude our exploration of these hidden dangers, it's important to remember that electric vehicles, despite their risk, represents an essential step forward in reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and combating climate change. However, the threats posed by thermal runaway, vapor clouds explosion, hazardous gas emissions, etc. highlight the need for a more nuanced understanding of EVs. If you found this information eye-opening, don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with others who need to be aware of these hidden risks. For more deep dives into important topics like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Stay informed, stay safe, and let's continue to push for a safer, greener future together.